Greetings viewers, EricTheCarGuy here. I'm in the middle of doing a major service and timing belt and water pump on my J-Series V6 3.2 liter that's in my 2008 Acura TL. I've discovered an oil leak coming from the front valve cover and also an oil leak going down into the spark plug well of this cylinder right here, which looks like cylinder number 2. Anyway, I'm going to address that today and show you how to replace valve cover gaskets on a J-Series V6, in particular a 3.2 liter. I believe this will also work for 3.5 liters as well. Job one for you, if you're just starting out, is going to be remove all the engine covers and everything and get to this point. And then you're going to need to remove the intake manifold in order to access the valve covers in order to get them out of here. In order to remove the intake manifold, you must remove the plate up here, which also has the EGR and everything underneath it. Probably a good idea to unplug this, which I believe is the valve that opens up the second set of runners inside the intake manifold. Yep, and there's the motor baffle for the two-stage intake. EGR passages are contained in here, all these little holes right here, just make sure that they're clear. These are crystal clear, so I'm totally good with that. These are the fasteners that hold the intake manifold to the top of the engine here. Before I go there, I'm going to remove the brake booster line and also this intake manifold vacuum feed line. And for good measure, also this electrical connection to the purge control solenoid. Going to work from outside in. These are all the same, so you don't have to worry about them being different lengths. And I'm also going to need to disconnect this guy. A little brittle. Just going to take this out altogether. Air filter assembly. Another electrical connection here. The purge control solenoid stuff, there are two 10mm fasteners holding this on. Just remove those and this upper hose and all that will stay in place. So all that other stuff can stay intact. I'm also going to disconnect the negative battery cable here. And I'm doing this more than anything else. This is a drive-by wire car, meaning that there's no physical connection between the gas pedal or the accelerator pedal and the throttle body. And my experience with disconnecting or dealing with motorized throttle bodies is you want to, well, do everything you can to make sure you don't screw it up. And there's a couple of clips clipping this wire on here, which I'm going to remove and just get this out of here entirely. To get to those clips, you can just come underneath like this and squeeze, and that will unhook them. A nice clean air filter out of here. So these clips, I was just squeezing them from the other side, and they pop out quite easily when you do that. You can disconnect the hoses and all this stuff. There are a couple of coolant lines under here that, well, frankly, are kind of tricky to get to. Rather than messing with all that, there are 4 12mm fasteners that hold this to the intake. The risk is damaging the gasket. If I damage the gasket, then I need a new gasket. But if I don't damage the gasket, I've reused them plenty of times and not had issue. So couple of taps with a hammer usually knock it loose. And I want to be careful because see how the gasket is starting to separate right there? So as long as the gasket is intact, I'm good. With that disconnected, I should be able to remove the intake manifold now. That simple. Opens up all kinds of room, doesn't it? To prevent stuff from getting down inside the engine while I work, I'm just gonna take this rag and lay it over the top of this. And I like to do the hard stuff first, so I'm gonna go for this rear valve cover. Now there are two 10mm fasteners holding on this harness. So there's one here. And one here. So now that's free. You're still gonna have to fish the valve cover up underneath it, which sucks. One other thing to do, as long as we're here, when I disconnect that hose, I won't be able to get the valve cover off of that connected. Now, it's really only my front valve cover that's leaking, but I'm here, so why not? I'll also link in the description a video I did about a valve adjustment on this engine, if that's of interest to you. This hook holds the power steering hose, high pressure power steering hose on. It's held on by one 10mm fastener. I just like getting it out of the way. Next, I'm going to disconnect all ignition coils. There are 3. And there are 10mm fasteners holding each of them in. And then you can remove the coils. They don't have to go back into the same well they came from. You can mix them up. They're all the same. That should pretty much be everything we need. 2 fasteners on the front of the valve cover, and then 1, 2, 3 that are in the back. You'll need to move this thing around in order to access some of them, particularly this one back here. Some are long and some are short. The long ones, leave them in. If you can get the short ones out, like this one right here was short, you can remove them. I'm going to come in with a pry bar right here to lift it up, knock it loose. This harness is the biggest problem back here, and part of what can help loosen it up is just taking this 10mm off down here. This fastener is located under the power steering pump. I'll give you a little more reach. There we are. I'm also going to disconnect this ground over here. I'm going to take another step and undo the fuel injectors. This is the exact same principle I used on that air cleaner over there. So just squeeze these in and pull up. And with the fuel injectors, squeeze in the side, undo it. So there's a tab up here that you depress and you can release it. Hopefully that gives me the reach that I need to get this up off of here. That looks really clean. Cleaner than I thought it would. In this instance, the gasket stayed with the cylinder head. It's still a little pliable. When gaskets like this get old and brittle, that's when they leak. I'm going to clean this thing up, and then we'll take out the spark plug well seals and install the new gaskets. My gasket kit came with new grommets for these, and in fact, that's kind of what's leaking in the back here. So I'm going to replace those also, if I can, because, well, as you can see, you got to get past that. This is where the fun begins, in getting these old seals out. That's one. Oh, nailed it. They get brittle. When they're brittle like this, they leak. So even though it wasn't leaking back here, it probably was only a matter of time. As I said, before I put this back together, I'm going to clean it up. I'm going to put the new seals in. Here's the most important part of this, is when you install them like this. Don't install them like this. I mean, you might want to install them like this. You think, hey, this is how they're supposed to go on. But think about how the spark plug well's got to come up through there. Luckily, they go in easier than they come out. I'm not fond of these gaskets. They're what my parts supplier gave me, but you can see a little locator there and one here. So I don't quite have that right. This is why I don't like these. I mean, they have the illusion of something that will work, and then you try and use it, and it's like, well, maybe, sorta. And then you spend a whole lot of time fighting with it. All right, flip it over. Push it on the table. Hopefully that stays. Well, yeah, admittedly, my table was a little dirtier than it should have been for that. Just got to be super careful when you put this on the engine that this doesn't fall out, particularly this edge right here. So it's kind of nice that it's a nice bright blue, so that I can put my inspection mirror down there and make sure that I see a nice blue line between the cylinder head and the valve cover. I know I'm good. Otherwise, well, gotta do it all over again. Hopefully that doesn't happen. The front one is so much easier. Just to make assembly easier, I'm just taking a drop of engine oil and just putting it on the insides of these seals so that they go down over the spark plug wells easier. Just a little bit, that's all it needs. This is going to be a little more challenging. As I said, there's this little stop down here. So what I'm going to attempt to do is I'm going to attempt to cut this off of here because it is a little brittle. And should slip past the metal, yes. Okay, as far as insertion, I'm going to just take a little bit of silicone spray, put it in there. I have it positioned in the vise to where I can Hopefully just knock this through. And it's damaged. This is actually, I never replace these, and this is why. So this split when I was going through there. These aren't Honda seals. Maybe that has something to do with it, I don't know. Maybe in an angle. Maybe that's the trick. Maybe go on from this way. It's two. Maybe I've found a way to do this. I'm gonna go see if I can find another one of these in my gasket stuff. Hey Eric, if you had the actual Honda parts, why didn't you use them in the first place? Whatever. Anyway, there's a part number for a Honda one. I'm just gonna stick with using the aftermarket ones until I need to do otherwise. I love this workbench. I can't wait to unclutter it because to clutter it is a crime. It's such a good work surface. I love it. There, now those have been replaced. No silicone, no goop, no nothing. Let the gasket do the work. So far, so good. I can push it down on the spark plug wells, which it doesn't seem to just want to do. So I guess it's gonna have to draw down onto them. Short one goes here. The remaining ones are all the same length. So for the rest of them, they can all go in. It's just this one is the short one. It's the odd one out. Take your time to make sure these are threading in properly. Last thing you want to do is cross thread one of these. So make sure you've got good thread engagement. Excellent. As far as torque, don't get crazy. I'm using 1/4 inch tools. Don't break anything. I'm going to draw the back ones down so it goes on those plug well seals first. I would say that's more than sufficient. I'm just going to take my inspection mirror and make sure I see my blue line that I talked about. I don't feel anything that came out, but it could have rolled inward. You want to know this now, not later, so you have to go and get another part. It's better than having oil gushing all over the exhaust. Oh, looks good. I'm also going to quickly check the tops of the tube seals just to see if the seal is properly, well, if the seal is making contact with the tube. Now I'm gonna nail all this stuff back down and put all that back together, starting with this harness, because it's not a factor with the front. There's a whole other harness and it actually moves out of the way quite easily. I'm going to wait on those. It'll be easier to put the throttle body on. Last but not least, the front one is so much easier. Step one, remove the dipstick. Very easily broken. Just get it out of the way. This is all 10 millimeter stuff. This was my problem cylinder. And for this one, I'm going to pry over here. And I'm going to remove this 10 millimeter also. That gives me all I need. Well, it's not brittle and cracking, but it was leaking. You can actually see right along this ridge. You sort of see where it was coming out there. Just seeping over time. And that made its way all the way down the timing cover, all the way down in the front, all the way down to the oil pan. It's interesting that this is the one that was leaking and it's the crustiest looking. I wonder if it was replaced in the past. I advise you get extras, just saying. Voila. Don't move the throttle plate. With the valve cover gaskets replaced, I'm now going to reinstall the intake manifold. I have not had issue reusing this gasket. This is a composite steel type gasket. I usually don't have issues with those leaking. Now, the temptation might be to clean out these intake runners and spray a bunch of carb cleaner down in there, but that's a lot of liquid, and you don't want to lock up the engine with all that liquid. So I'm going to leave that be. Now, I did take the time to clean out the upper part of the intake. I'm just reluctant to do this based on, past experience. I don't want to load it up with so much stuff that it's going to be an issue. And lower this back down into position. And it should fall down on there. You shouldn't have any effort, because if you do, look for obstructions, which is what I did. I'm just going to loosely reconnect stuff. Almost forgot to reattach this guy. It's the 210s. Somehow that got broke. Hopefully that stays together. If not, I could zip tie it. All the bolts are the same length. I'm running this down with my 1/4 inch. You don't need to over torque it. I don't know the exact torque spec. I've never torqued it, but if I find it, I'll put it in the description. That being said, I'll be starting in the center and working my way out is how I plan to tighten it. To me, that's the important part. But 1/4 inch tools save me from over torquing. I took the opportunity to clean this up a little bit. Starting from the center, working my way out. Don't forget to plug this in. Now I'll reattach the throttle body. My air filter. There it is. Valve cover gasket replacement on a J Series V6 from Honda. I'll post a link in the description to a valve adjustment video I did, which shows the valve cover removal, but also shows the valve adjustment procedure if you're interested in that. I'll also have more videos on this TL that are available. As they become available, I will try to also link those down in the description. So if you have additional questions, want to see more stuff, please check the description. Also, please check the description for a link to EricTheCarGuy.com, which is where I ask you go if you have automotive questions. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video with friends. Be safe, have fun, stay dirty. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. I already said thank you for watching. So thank you, thank you, thank you.